This is John Harbour, and I'm talking to you from Urquhart Castle. Urquhart Castle on Loch Ness, and probably behind me you can see a fabulous expanse of water, and that is Loch Ness. So look out for that funny old monster that we all hear about, and I can confirm it's true, there is a Loch Ness monster, and I'll tell you a story about how I've personally seen this monster myself. But we're here really today to look at the beautiful Loch Ness, but also to see the wonderful Urquhart Castle. Now Urquhart actually means a promontory near a thicket or a wood, and that's where it gets its name. And if you were to hover above Loch Ness, it's almost got parallel lines all the way up the loch until you get to this point, this promontory, and it sticks out like a nose, in fact, on the loch itself. And that's where Urquhart gets its name. And I'll explain how you spell Urquhart later. Urquhart is a fabulous castle. It's one of the largest ruins in Scotland, was one of the largest castles, and it's sitting just below me. So if my cameraman would like just come towards me, I'll move aside slightly and let you just see the loch for a start, and not just the loch, but the castle itself. Urquhart Castle in all its glory. And if you look to the right, that's the oldest part, and that's dating from about 13th century, the build, and coming round to the left, and that was built, the Grant Tower as it's called, in about the 16th century. And spin left again, and just without me blocking the view, just get a great view all the way down Loch Ness. Loch Ness, about 24 miles long, one of the largest in Scotland, just beaten by Loch Lomond, and it connects Inverness all the way down to Invermorrison and beyond, and Loch Ness is actually in the Great Glen of Scotland. Inverness to Fort William is the Great Glen, a huge valley leading all the way down. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take a walk down to the castle, and I'm going to show you inside. So it's probably good to give you a view of what I'm seeing from up here. Actually behind me, let me just give you a quick look, is a brand new visitor centre. And this visitor centre was only built a few years ago, and it's absolutely marvellous. Built into the side of the hill to make it so innocuous, and obviously you can't see this from the roadside as you're driving up Loch Ness, and therefore not taking away the beautiful view of the loch. So what we'll do is we'll come down. We normally come in up the top and down onto the castle, but today, because of our COVID regulations, we've had to come in a long way. Beautiful way in, of course, nice path all the way down. Now, the one great thing about coming to visit historic sites today is that they're very good at showing us what the castle would have looked like. So I'm going to just show you castle, the famous Castle Urquhart, and here it is. So that's what it would have looked like, perhaps back in the 16th century. And on the right hand side you can see the wall that in fact part of the wall is still there today, and I'll let you see. That's the wall just sitting up on the right hand side there. And then if you look left, the tower called the Grant Tower, and that was built in about 1609, and that's the tower just down there. In fact, it's partially ruined, and you can see how Castle Urquhart is spelt as well. So that's what we're going to go and see, and it would have been absolutely marvellous in its day. Beautifully defended with water on one side, and of course we've got hills, and it would have been a wooded thicket behind us, giving good protection. And then the part in front of the castle would have been clear to give an arc of fire for anybody that might have been attempting to attack the castle. So let's walk down, and I'll just let you enjoy Loch Ness as we continue down this particular path. And there's Loch Ness again. I'm going to actually show you a weapon of war of at least the 14th century, and it's called a trebuchet. And this is an amazing piece of kit, and this is called the trebuchet. And actually there's some of it just shows you how big they are. There's my foot on one of these things that they would have thrown using this absolutely amazing weapon of war, the trebuchet. There's a lovely story of an attack on Stirling Castle, and the king was leading his army, and he'd waited weeks for his trebuchet to arrive because it came in bits, and there would be about 20 carts bringing all the bits. And when they finally constructed it, the people in the castle, realising that they had no way of winning against this particular group, decided to give in, surrender, and they opened the gates and came out with a white flag, and the commander of the army demanded that they get back inside the castle because he refused point blank to bring this trebuchet all that way and not use it. So they pelted the castle with a few huge bricks and then let them surrender. And there's one or two people around today, not many. They've restricted the number of people that can actually visit because of COVID, but I'm delighted to say I was able to get in. I'm just going to show you another picture of what Urquhart would have looked like just when it became a ruin. So there's the ruin there. Let's just go into the castle itself. We're about to cross a dry moat. And this was a ditch that was dug, a moat, of course you'll all know what a moat is, but that's a ditch that was dug to protect the castle itself. Just as I come around now, we're actually on the drawbridge. This would have been a drawbridge in its day, and so therefore you'd have to cross this drawbridge before entry. And there's the tower up there, the granite tower. It's great to be able to just walk around with this. So, I mean, this gatehouse, I'm showing you these bits because effectively in 1692, because the castle was being sieged by the Jacobites. Now, I mentioned the Jacobites before, the followers of James, Jacobus. Well, they had been sieged for quite a few weeks, and realising that there was nothing else for it, they decided to give the castle up. Now, the Jacobites wanted to take it for themselves, but the Grant clan, who were holding it at the time, decided to march out with pipes playing, but before they went, to make sure the Jacobites couldn't use it for themselves, they blew it up. So you can see the towers have been brought down, and these are fragments of the old tower that existed. I'll just come back a bit to let you see that. Most of the stone of this castle in the 19th century would have been taken away to make new houses for locals that are living here. Right, let's get inside the castle itself. We've got a gatehouse here. I'll come inside the gatehouse, and this is what would have looked like in days gone by, the gatehouse, and it would have dealt with intruders, as it says there. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Just taking a wee video, if that's all right.
All right, that's okay. You've been down here before?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to go to the top first, and then
Talk first,
yeah,
right,
thank you.
okay.
Say hello to the world. So we're going to climb to the top of what would be the main bailey. There's a thing called a motte and bailey, and what you tended to do, you found a piece of land, you dig a moat around it, a huge hole, and keep filling up the earth in the middle, and eventually you've got a mound. And once you've got the mound, then you build your palisade, your wooden castle on top of that. Well, this would be called the motte here, but it's actually a natural motte, but this is actually built on stone. But you can see now I'm just climbing to the top, and you're going to get a wonderful view of Loch Ness once we get to the top of here. And we're going to go to the top. In fact, let's let you see Loch Ness. There you go. There's the wonderful loch. And once I climb to the top here, if I'm not totally exhausted, I'll explain about the castle itself. And we'll get to the top, look at that, the saltire. Is that not just fabulous? Let's go to the very end of the castle now and look out one side of it. So what I'm doing now, well there you go, that's looking all the way to the south. That's Loch Ness all the way to the south. Beautiful cloud formation today. Bring it round all the way to the north. Okay, I want to get thumbs up. If anybody can see the Loch Ness monster at all, if anybody's seen it, look right in the middle, right in the middle of the loch there. If you can see a little black dot, I think that it could be the monster. I don't know. Can anybody else see that around here? I'm getting people nodding their heads.
Yeah.
Well, if I can just get this on tape, I'm going to make a fortune with this. Can I see anything jumping up and down? Not quite. I'm not sure. Not clear. I'll have a look at the tape later. Anyway, let's continue having a look at this wonderful castle. I'll let you see the visitor centre. We've just walked down from the visitor centre there, and you can see how it's neatly tucked into the side of the hill. It's beautiful. It's going to come round. So here we are. We are kings of the castle. We're right up at the very top of the castle. We're looking down now on the newer part of the castle, built in the 16th century. The tower is called the Grant Tower, and that's because the Clan Grant, normally from the east coast of Scotland, were awarded this castle because the king had difficulty actually keeping control of it. People called the MacDonalds, or the Lords of the Isles, attacked this place regularly, and what the king needed was somebody who was loyal to him and could keep the castle for him. So the Grants, the Clan Grant, were given this castle in perpetuity and maintained it, and did very well, especially against the Lords of the Isles and the MacDonalds, but sadly had to give it up when the Jacobites arrived in 1692. Although I talk about 13th to 16th century, the part we're standing is, we know that this was occupied the last 3,000 or 4,000 years. In fact, there's documentation showing, and the archaeologists have discovered it, that this probably was occupied, definitely occupied, in the 6th century. And the reason we know that is because apart from archaeological evidence that's been found, there was a man called Adomnan, and Adomnan was the scribe to St. Columba. So I was just talking about St. Columba, evangelising the Picts, turning them to Christians here on this site. And actually the very, very first recording of the sighting of the Loch Ness Monster goes back to St. Columba's visit here. Adomnan, his scribe or his biographer, writes in his script that St. Columba, while he was here, was requested by the locals to rid this loch of a huge monster that was terrorising the people of the local area. And apparently St. Columba stood on the side of the loch and bade the monster farewell. That's maybe why we don't see so much of him today. Anyway, the Loch Ness Monster actually recorded back in the 6th century, so there must be something about it. But apart from that, what I want to do now is just go down below. I want to show you a few more of the buildings, and we'll get close up and personal with some of the places before then we wrap up for today. It's a great view from this particular vantage point. Still looking for Nessie, still not seen her. There you go, isn't it marvellous? Right, let's take a little walk down and I'll let you see some of the buildings, the outbuildings that we've got, and what they would have represented. And the first thing we're coming to is what they call a ducat in Scottish, a dovecot. And dovecot basically is doves are pigeons, and part of the diet in those days would have been birds, seabirds, fish and meat. Well, this dovecot was a source of bird diet. Well, here we are again. I actually was just standing right up the top there and filming down on Urquhart Castle. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, we had the what they call the Upper Bailey, and that was the old castle from the 13th century. We also had a dovecot, a ducat, where they used to keep the pigeons to eat them. And then just down below here, there's buildings for a kitchen, and that kitchen just here would have served the Great Hall. And if I just look round, just at the side there, you can see what looks like a large building, and that was the Great Hall. I'm going to show you what it would have looked like in its heyday. And here it is. So that's what it would have looked like in its heyday. And the Great Hall was just a place of banquets and entertaining, and every castle worth its salt had one. And that's what it looks like today without a roof. So you've got the kitchen at the back, and then what a wonderful view they would have had, having their supper there, wouldn't they? Okay, we're coming round to one of the main parts of the castle. In fact, just before we do that, I want to show you the chapel. This is where the chapel would have been, on top of this rise. That would have been the chapel. Now then, just coming round to the main point of the castle now, and that is the newest part of the castle, built in the 16th century, and it's called the Grant Tower because it would have been the Grants, the Clan Grant, who were given this whole castle in perpetuity. And I'll just give you a wee spin round again to let you see the size of the place. A huge piece of ground occupied by the castle itself. And then back to the Grant Tower. Now the Grant Tower, you can see the thickness of the walls. Actually the section that's missing was blown down in a storm in the 1700s, so it wasn't destroyed by gunfire. And anyway, who would have got a gun across there? Because it's a freshwater sea loch, so no ships, and indeed a great way of defending the castle by building right on the shores of the loch. So there you can see the Grant Tower. It's got effectively 5 floors. You've got the basement, and then you've got the inner hall, an upper hall for banqueting, and then you'd have the bedrooms above that, and then a small tower above that as well. 3 feet thick, the walls would have been, at least 3 feet thick. So we can just go down and have a bit of a closer look at this. And attached to the tower would have been a kitchen of its own as well, and there's just a little kitchen area down here. I won't go in, I mean, I'd love to go inside and show you, but I'm sure I'll lose the signal again. I don't want to lose you at this point. Another building, an outbuilding, and then that leads all the way down to the Great Hall there as well. So in fact, if I just come up this way a little bit more, onto the rocky knoll, and then look down into what would have been, as I say, the Great Hall. Just looking all the way down Loch Ness at the moment, and then round again as well. What a lovely day. Suddenly, it was raining here terribly yesterday, but today, a bit cloudy, had a wee bit of drizzle earlier on, but right at this moment you can see the beautiful blue skies. And then finally, the Grand Tower of Urquhart Castle. Isn't it amazing? So that's me for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a great time last week as well at Edinburgh Castle. That was great fun, and thank you all who watched and put your thumbs up, and please do share. This is John Harbour from Exclusive Scottish Visits. I do have my website, www.exclusivescottishvisits.co.uk, and I also do podcasts talking about Scotland in general, so if you'd like to hear some of those, then please do. So that's John Harbour from Exclusive Scottish Visits, signing off for today, and look forward maybe to hearing from you next weekend. Okay, take care guys, all the best, bye bye.